Fault number 130 is Justin Hodges. Justin Hodges achieved everything there was to achieve in the game in a stellar career. A two-time premiership-winning player with two clubs, Justin played 24 games for Queensland after making his debut in Game 2 of the 2002 series. He also played 13 tests for Australia and 3 games for the Indigenous All Stars. In all, Justin played 251 NRL games across 16 seasons, scoring 99 tries. He was Dally M's Centre of the Year in 2007 and captained the Brisbane Broncos in the 2015 Grand Final against North Queensland. In all, Justin was a member of 9 Origin-winning series. His final match, the 52-6 win in Game 3 of 2015.
Well, Justin Hodges, thanks for your time. What does it mean to you to be a FOG?
Oh, look, it means everything. Growing up as a young kid and watching these great Queensland players run around, you can just only picture yourself or memories of dreaming about representing Queensland and putting that maroon jersey on. I think for me it's probably one of the most special individual moments for my career in terms of the first phone call that I got that I was going to make my debut for Queensland was just so surreal, and it's just one of those moments you'll never forget. And to be part of such a great family at the FOGS where some of the greatest players that ever laced up their footy boots are a FOG. So to be part of that family is the ultimate satisfaction for me as a rugby league player.
Well, take us back to the start. What was it like as a young boy growing up in Cairns?
Yeah, look, growing up in Cairns was fun. We didn't have much, but rugby league was a way of life up there. My dad played it, my 2 older brothers played it, all the family did. So, that's all we ever did. After school we'd play in the street. We lived in a close, so maybe we'd get pushed onto the road and pushed into fences. And look, I just really enjoyed it. I knew that I had a talent. I knew that I was, a lot different from the rest of my mates who played rugby league, but didn't probably have the amount of talent that I had. So, look, it was something that I just was born to do. I just loved the game. I loved the physicality of it. I loved scoring tries and having fun. I think that's the main thing. And then you meet, some of my best mates I've met through rugby league. So, it's one of those moments where, I was just lucky enough to grow up in Cairns and follow everyone's footsteps and play in rugby league.
When did it get serious for you? You said that you knew you had some ability, but when did that knowledge internally manifest itself into you getting an opportunity to leave Cairns and come south?
Yeah, look, I think I was looked at when I was 12. There's a guy called Paul Bunn who used to work at the South Queensland Crushers, so I signed there when I was 12. When they folded, I went across to the Broncos with him, and then so I sort of became a bit of a realisation that I could actually go down and play rugby league. So I think when I was 12, 13, I was making all these rep sides, and I had like I said, my main purpose or my main goal was to come down and really have a good hot crack. When there's still a lot of people back home that probably didn't want me to leave Cairns, but like I said, I knew that I had a talent and I wanted to come down here and really try and make something of myself, where a lot of our people don't. But I was just I was fortunate enough to meet some great people along the way that that brought me to the Broncos. Wayne was outstanding. He wouldn't let me come down here unless my family came with me. So give me a good home base where I can actually strive to try and be the best person I can be.
Well, that sort of leads to my next question about the move from Cairns to Brisbane. How pivotal was it that your family came with you? Do you reckon that might have been the defining moment, the fact that you did have family with you?
100%. Based on, and also, I remember I went to Ferny Grove State High School to get grade 12 here, and I remember the first day I was sitting in the car, and it was just so different to what I was used to back home in Cairns. The school environment was different. There wasn't any other Indigenous kids there, so I was a bit intimidated. And I still remember sitting in the car, and I turned to Mum and said, "Mum, this is not for me. Let's just go home." So lucky having my mum and my family there. Mum goes, "No, you'll be right. Just go." So I reckon, if my family didn't come down, there's no doubt in my mind I probably would have walked away and went back home to Cairns like a lot of Indigenous people do. We're very family orientated people. So I think Wayne knew that. So that's why Wayne said that I wasn't to come down unless Mum and Dad moved down with me. So, I was very lucky for those guys to give up their life back home in Cairns as well and move down here and give me the opportunity to try and make something of my life. So, yeah.
How did you cope with the training and the intensity of being at the Broncos?
Yeah, look, it was hard. I'm not going to lie. I think the first time we went to train at Kelvin Grove there, and everyone's doing fitness, and I was just like, back home in Cairns, you can pick and choose what you do. But yeah, look, the training was surreal. Like, it was just next level. The coaches was next level. The standards were high. But as a young kid, I remember every year, the Broncos bring a lot of young kids down to train and trial or whatever it's called now. And I remember Wendell Saylor one day, we were doing like 100 metres, like just getting flogged. And then one of the young kids that came down with us, he kept missing the time. And I remember Wendell just turned around and just sprayed him. And I was just like, holy hell. Like, so from that moment, I just, didn't want to miss a time but it taught me good lessons as well about, having high standards. And, but the training, it was just first class. Having like Wayne Bennett, Craig Bellamy was our trainer at the time as well. So we had some great leaders there as well.
So 2000, you're at, 17, 18 years of age. Yep. You make your NRL debut. How daunting was that, and what was the lead up to that like?
Yeah, look, it was scary, but also a proud moment as well. So I remember the boys were in Origin camp, so Wendell was away again. And, Wayne tapped me on the shoulder and said I was going to get my opportunity to debut for the Broncos down in Canberra on the wing. At the time, there's a big winger called Leslie Vanacolo. And I was like, holy hell, this lad's big. And I was only a skinny little runt from Cairns. So playing against Laurie Daly and all these guys that I've idolised as well. But it was such an unreal moment. Like going to Canberra, playing for the Broncos for the first time against some of these guys that I grew up watching on the TV screen was just, so rememberable for me. And just probably a lot of hard work that went into it, just thanking my mum and dad for giving me the opportunity to come down and play for the Broncos as well. So, it's a proud moment and a moment I'll never forget.
So 5 games that year. Do you reckon that taste helped you, the fact that you weren't in there the whole year? You're able to have, a handful of games to give you an acclimatisation of what it was like to play at that elite level and a burning desire in the off-season so that 2001, you were ready?
Yeah, 100%. I think, whenever you, like I was playing Queensland Cup at the time, and obviously, when you go to first grade, the level is, once again, the speed of it, the physicality, everything of first grade football is what you expect, and then as a 17-year-old kid, he was a lot faster than probably what I anticipated. The hits were bigger as well. You can only get a gauge from what you see on TV until you're out there, but 100%, I went away from that year, worked hard. Look, I had great leaders at the club, like, my position was Lockie, Wendell Saylor and Lottie Takiri as well. So, we had a great group of guys where I could learn from. And look, everyone knew their place. Like, I knew my place. When the leaders are talking, you listen, you absorb everything you possibly can to learn. And that's what I did. I just watched some of the great players do what they did. Like, Lockie wasn't a big talker, but his work ethic, the way that he trained. Shane Webke is another one that stands out for me. Is the way that he trained is the way that he played. So I've learned a lot of good lessons along the line that sort of helped me as a young teenager to get through those years as well.
So they were the good things to build you, but then 2001 was really a tumultuous year for you, wasn't it? Because you ended up signing with the Roosters for 2002, which didn't go down particularly well. You're still a young man, very young man. What was that like then?
Yeah, look, it was. I was only 18, 19 at the time, and I made a decision based on my whole career. I played fullback, Australian schoolboys, all that stuff. I was a fullback, but there's a guy called Darren Lockyer. I was playing fullback for the Broncos at the time. So, look, I wanted to go to the Roosters for an opportunity to try and play in my preferred position. But, I remember the phone call I made to Wayne that night that I was leaving the club. It was probably one of the most nervous I've ever been in my whole entire life. My heart was probably beating 1,000 times. Tell him that I was going down there, and I didn't hear much. There was a bit of a pause at the end of the conversation, and he just goes, righto, and then sort of hung up the phone. When then next day I've come to train and ready to get to work, but then, look, Wayne sort of addressed everyone in the change room that I was leaving the club, and then, I was told to go back and play Queensland Cup, which is hard for, all I want to do is play football, but at the time I probably didn't understand why he did it, but as I got older and, we sort of our relationship sort of came back together again. We sort of had a bit of a yarn about what happened and why it happened. And then, like all those lessons for me, it taught me how to be tougher, it taught me how to be stronger. And I've always been appreciative for that.
Timing was pretty good because you arrived at the Roosters in a premiership year, but Cairns to Brisbane is one thing, and then Cairns, Brisbane to Sydney is another. How tough was that?
Mate, it was extremely tough, and I went to Sydney by myself. Mum and Dad obviously stayed here because Dad was working. Mate, that was an eye-opener. Like I said, a little place called Cairns, then to become to Brisbane was massive again. Then going to Sydney, it was just like, holy hell! Like, I didn't know how long. I don't know how it lasted 3 years, but look, we had a really good group of guys at the Roosters, which helped me a lot. We made 3 grand finals. Unfortunately, we only got one of them, but look, the time that I spent there was unbelievable. Like, we still got our WhatsApp group today from all the Roosters boys that we still connect with. Look, I was a young kid, but we had such great leaders at that place as well. Freddie and Rico and Adrian Morley and all these guys, Fletch and Fitzy. So they always made me welcome. So I can never say anything bad about my time at the Roosters because I loved it. I wouldn't have changed my decision ever again.
You're 20 years of age. You've moved from Cairns. You've had a couple of years at the Broncos. You go to the Roosters. You win a premiership. You make your Origin debut, and you're 3 years into a career. You must have thought at that time that this just happens to everyone, but it's not the reality, is it? Looking back, what you achieved in those first 3 years, yep. Some blokes never achieved that in a lifetime. What was it like?
Yeah, look, for me it was, I think you just get caught up in the moment. Like when you're doing it, you don't probably appreciate it, like you just said. You just probably did think that this is just part of being a rugby league player, that you get selected to play for Queensland, you win a grand final, and that's how it is. But as the years go on, you sort of realise how hard it is actually to get selected to even play for your club, play for your state, your country, and trying to win a grand final is one of the hardest things you could ever do. And to do that at a young age, I probably didn't I wouldn't say understood, but I probably didn't appreciate it for what it was. I remember after winning the 2002 grand final, we had a great time, but then sort of time went that fast. You probably didn't appreciate it until now when I look back. But look, as rugby league players, you sort of don't look for those moments. You sort of appreciate it more when you retire, when you look back and think about those little moments, that made me who I was and obviously changed my career.
2002, as I mentioned, the Origin debut. Yep. Take us back to, you mentioned earlier, alluded to the fact of getting that phone call that you're going to represent Queensland, the emotions that were going through you, particularly, I suppose, when you're able to tell your mum and dad.
Yeah, so, I remember the phone call. Obviously, Wayne rang me up, and like I said before that, so a lot about, for me and him to have that conversation, like he was happy to ring me and tell me that I was going to make my debut for Queensland, where I probably thought me and him and our bridges sort of been burnt when I went to the Roosters, but to have him call me and let me know that I was going to make my debut for Queensland was, one of the proudest moments of my life. It's up there. Having my 2 kids, like to play for Queensland means everything. It's a long dream to represent Queensland, and to have Wayne ring me with that personalised phone call to say I was going to do it. But I was playing on the wing, which I'd never played on the wing before. But to have that moment where you get the debut for your state was just you get heaps of other phone calls throughout your career. I would have had that phone call 23 other times, but not saying the other 23 is not important, but having that first one, I'd never forget it.
I find it interesting too that you mentioned that you go to the Roosters because you want to play fullback. You represent your state, you win a premiership, you're going to represent your country, never having played fullback. What did that tell you as an older player compared to that younger player who wanted to change clubs to play in a specific position, that sometimes there are other opportunities? Yeah,
I think it taught me just to be adaptable. Like you never know where you're going to fit into a side. And I think, you see a lot of players these days, they kick and scream about you're not playing their preferred position, or if they're playing on the left, they want to play on the right. I think for me, I just took it with both hands. Like I remember signing at the Roosters, Graham Murray was the coach. He got sacked. 2 weeks later, Ricky Stewart comes in. That's when I started playing centres for the first time in my career. But I knew that that's where he wanted me to play. That's where I fitted in the team. And I think a lot of players don't realise when you play a team sport, you got to fit into what the team needs you to do, and that's a position where I made it my own after so long. Where I was nervous, leading up to it because I never played that position before. Where a lot of you're playing against players that are well established in that position. So, look, for me, it's just about embracing the moment, and that was a new challenge for me. Like, I played fullback my whole career, but then all of a sudden I got shifted to the wing in Origin. That probably didn't work out the best in Origin 1, the debut, but then also, playing for the Roosters in the centres, I reckon, then I got to change positions throughout the years. I was playing fullback and centre where, you got to be adaptable for that.
Well, how would you like to be the owner of one of these? A FOGS authentic game ball signed by Wally Lewis at the 2023 Wally Lewis medalist Reuben Cotter. Now, all you have to do is subscribe, like, and drop a comment below. And each week, gentlemen, we'll be giving away one of these footballs to one of the viewers of the FOGS Queenslander podcast. Well done.
Well, it's good to be able to hand them on to the general public who like it, as long as we don't get blamed for breaking one of Mum's windows when they're kicking it around the backyard or tossing it around.
Framed, but this will be framed in a nice
Reuben Cotter's name. Wow.
Do you know how to subscribe and like and do all that, Gilly? No?
We can help you, mate. We can help you.
Help me out, fellas.
The two daughters can help him out.
So we have one of these to give away each week until stocks run out, until Wally gets sick and tired of signing them and Reuben Cotter disappears. But just subscribe to our channel, FOGS Queenslander Podcast. Write a comment below and click that like button. Everyone goes into the draw, and we've got one of these to give away each week.
Take us back to that first game. You said it didn't work out great. It was a nervous debut. Would that be fair to say? Or how do you now look back on that debut?
Yeah, look, obviously a bit of nerves, but then also I just probably backed my ability or backed my confidence in terms of, I thought the passes were on where obviously history shows that it wasn't. But look, I was just a young kid, confident in my ability. And but I remember, getting pulled off, with 20-something minutes to go, mate. That was probably one of the lowest moments in my life where, I just, it wasn't about me letting myself down. It was about me letting my teammates down, letting my state down, and obviously my family where, whenever you play rugby league, you never do things for yourself. It's always about other people. So, for me, it was. But I remember I stayed up here for 2 weeks. I didn't even go back to Sydney. I just hit up here where I was just ashamed of myself for letting everyone down and realising that, I got the opportunity to play for Queensland. I just thought, well, I've lost that opportunity ever again. I'll never get to play for Queensland. But so that was probably one of the hardest moments in my life of my rugby league career where I didn't see a way back, or I didn't see a way through where I could get back to those heights, or I knew that I belonged in that arena. So, for a 20-year-old kid, it was quite difficult to comprehend.
Well, you did. You played for Queensland again, as I mentioned. You win a couple of premierships.
Yep.
You represent your country, Indigenous All Stars. How did you come back then?
Look, I think for me, my mum's always probably been the rock in my family. Like, she was, diagnosed with cancer when we were young, nearly lost her. So for me, like all my career through rugby league, I got injured and stuff. I just thought back to how she, battled this, demon in terms of cancer, and never complained once. Just always had our best interest at heart. So I just thought, well, all this stuff. At the end of the day, it's just a game. And rugby league's about enjoying it. It's about learning lessons. And I think early in my career, I learned a lot of tough lessons. And hang around good people, like people that's going to make you better, people that want to help you get better. And obviously, be adaptable in terms of, whenever I played, even to the last game, I always made sure that I was coachable. I didn't think that I was better than anyone else. I didn't think I knew more than anybody else. And I think that's what sort of helped me over the years that, I went through all those tough times. I've come through the other side and I've played again. I've done this and done that. But, I just wanted to try and make sure that I was, the best player for myself.
Can you encapsulate what it's like to be handed that maroon jersey and then run out, whatever ground it may be, particularly across the road at Suncorp Stadium, what that means to a young bloke that grew up in the north of the state?
Yeah, look, it's mate, to play Origin, like it's hard. Like Sydney's a little bit different, because you sort of away from everything. But to play at Suncorp, like there's no other place to play Origin football. Like it's so surreal because like you get 52,500 people in there, right? And then the doors are shut and you hear absolutely nothing. Like you're warming up, you're going through your preparation, going through your emotions. Then all of a sudden when it's time to go, the bell goes and they open the door and it's just like this big rush of air, or then the fans are going crazy. But it's just like you think, how can you not hear 52,500 people and you're just underneath them? But yeah, you run out and mate, the hairs on your arms stick up. You just feel like you're just bulletproof. You're going out there and you see your family in the crowd. You're thinking about all those wonderful players that have represented Queensland before us, and mate, it's just one of those moments. It's the only time I miss playing rugby league is Origin. I don't miss playing it at all. I don't miss. I can watch the game and not really care about it, but Origin's just a different beast where you just wish you could have that one game back again, where you can just run out and relive your good days. But obviously that's never going to happen again. But yeah, the only time I miss playing rugby league is Origin.
You live the moment when you're playing, but when you retire, you're able to reflect. And how do you reflect, particularly being a member of, I think, 9 series-winning teams and playing with some of the greatest players to have ever played the game, not just for Queensland, but the game itself across the world? How do you look back and look at your teammates and go, wow, I played with him.
Yeah, look, we had especially during that great run, we had such a good young group. Everyone come together. I still remember the first day we came into camp and Mel started his campaign back in 2006, and he just stood up, laid down the ground rules and said, this is what we're doing, this is the way. If you don't like this way, basically there's the door, see you later, no hard feelings. And then sort of to set the tone for the rest of the camp, where we had Gilly come in and had a lot of good old players that were around the group. Obviously, Elf's there, and Mel was very big on bringing back ex-players and players that some players probably wouldn't even know who they are back in the 60s and the 70s and stuff like that. So just to sort of tell us what Origin's all about and give us the history lessons and why it's important for us to understand that. And didn't really hit home. So like every year or every camp, everyone was just so happy to come in and see each other, like you're supposed to come into camp by like 2 o'clock or something, and everyone's there by 11 o'clock just trying to check in and sit around and catch up with everyone. And it just became like it wasn't a bit of, it was a family place for us where, a lot of us are still close mates. A lot of the boys have, go to weddings and, kids' birthday parties now because of the relationships that we built. And that's what Queensland was all about. We just had this tight-knit group where, nothing fazed us. We support each other. And to be a part of that and to play with some of the game's greatest ever players, it was one of those pinch me moments. You walk into the sheds and obviously you look for your number and your name on the back, and you look next to you and you got Greg Inglis, and you got Jonathan Thurston over here, and you got Cam Smith over here, and you got Darren Lockyer, Petro Seven, like all these wonderful players. Just like you pinch yourself moments because it's like, wow, like some of these guys that you idolise or you played against for a long period of time, all of a sudden, like you walk into a change room sometimes and you're sort of second guessing yourself about how things are going to go, but then you walk in, you see all these names, you're like, oh, no, we're good, we're going to be okay. It's just, the moments like that just takes your breath away for sure.
How big was it for you to return to Brisbane?
Yeah, look, it was massive for me. I had 3 great years in Sydney, but it wasn't home. Brisbane was home. Obviously, Cairns is always going to be home for me as well. But like I said, I signed for an extra 3 years to stay down there, but I just had enough. And then, I remember ringing up Wayne and said, "Man, I want to come home." And I was so appreciative of him because not so many probably people at the club wanted me to come back after the circumstances that I left. But he was, he didn't really care what anyone else thought. He goes, "Mate, if you want to come home, I'll bring you home." And I've always been indebted for that, for Wayne, for bringing me home where my family were, where I could blossom and play my best football. And like growing up, Broncos was the team I wanted to play for, but I went to Roosters for an opportunity, but I wanted to come back here and have some success.
Timing again was pretty good to come back and play another premiership success. Is it a fair question to ask, or can you compare the two? I mean, winning one for the Roosters as a young kid, making that decision would have been great, but coming home and winning one for the Broncos, where does that sit?
Yeah, look, obviously, winning your first premiership is always your highlight, but I think the Broncos one for me really really takes the cake. I think, like I said, growing up, idolising some of these players, wanted to play for the club. And one of the guys that I really looked up to, in Shane Webke, that was his last season. A lot of people rid us off throughout the year. We probably didn't have the best start, but then sort of coming in the semi-finals, we sort of hit a few hurdles. We'd lost a few games and stuff like that, but the thing that changed is that we just got together as a group, and we just wanted to just give it a red hot crack, whether we got successful or not, or whether we lost along the way. But and just the spirit that we had, the connection that we built, and then to win the 2006 grand final against Melbourne, who I don't think we ever beaten over those last year, a couple of years prior to that. They're just one of those bogey sides we just couldn't beat. But to beat them in the grand final, 15-6 I think it was, or 15-8 was amazing. And to share those moments, and I think being a little bit older, I was more appreciative of what we just did and how hard it actually is to win one. Because went to the Roosters, done it straight away. You think, this is going to happen every year after 2 or 3 grand finals in a row. But to realise, and then a long stretch before my next one.
Have you been able to come to terms with 2015 and the grand final loss to the Cowboys?
No.
And this is where it gets difficult, isn't it? Because you're actually one of the few people to captain the Brisbane Broncos to a grand final,
Yep.
one of the greatest grand finals of all the time, but you're on the wrong side of the ledger. As a former player, can you come to terms with that? Can you appreciate from the inside what we appreciate from the outside?
Yes and no.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it?
It is hard. Look, but it's not about me. It was about, so 2015 was another roller coaster year. I sort of knew that I was coming to the back end of my career, and had a bit of a chat with Wayne about where I was and what I wanted to do. And we sort of had a bit of chat where I just probably wasn't enjoying coming to train. I wasn't enjoying going to games. I was enjoying getting dressed up, ready to go and represent the Broncos again, where I never. So I sort of, said to myself, when I ever got to that moment, I wanted to retire, because I didn't want to become a job. I did it because that's what I wanted to do. But that year was, such a please. Like, everything sort of fell into place. Milford was there, Darbs came back as well, obviously followed Wayne, but Adam Blair was there. So we had a really good side where we knew that we could do something special, just didn't know how far we could go. But the grand final is always hard. It's one of those moments where every year towards September they play those field goals, and I've got to quickly turn it off, because I still live moments in my head. I'll never forget it, because it was my last ever game. I can't go back and rewrite the script, so to speak. So it does play a massive part of my mind. But the reason why is because I'm comfortable with it, but I just wanted some of my teammates to go through that feeling of winning the grand final. I just thought that it was such a great side not just throughout the year, but coming in the finals, we're the better side. There was no doubt about that. Just things in that game just probably didn't go the way that we wanted to, especially those last probably 9 seconds of that game. But so for me, it was just one of those moments where I just wanted my teammates to understand what it's like to win a grand final. And some of those guys have never played in the grand final since, or some of those guys have never even won a grand final. So that's probably, as a captain, as a guy, I played in 4 and won 2, but I just wanted those guys to really understand what it's like and the feeling that you get from winning the grand final. And it's just unfortunately how some of those guys will never get that feeling.
Who's had the biggest influence on your career?
As a player, like I said, probably my mum. Dealing with setbacks, I've had a lot of crazy injuries through my career, but then obviously my wife at the time as well, sort of the back end of my career, and just realising that, there are some good people. Some of my good mates really helped me get me back on track after I've had some, really serious injuries, and some positive role models. I think that's what you look for. As a rugby league player, everyone wants to be your friend, but no one really. Some people don't really care about how you're going as a person. So I think, for me, my mum's always been my rock, where I could go to and talk to, and she's never once steered me in the wrong direction.
Now, a really tough and unfair question, because you've played with, as we mentioned before, some of the greats of the game. Is there one player that stands out that you love playing with throughout your career?
Yeah, it's always a tough one when you get asked this. But for me, at Origin level, probably Greg Inglis. I just think that he was a guy that could, if he wanted to do something, he could just do it. No matter who you were on the opposition, you weren't going to stop him. And even though today we're still close mates, but I remember talking about 2015. That was my last ever game, and I remember I think Billy was out injured. And there's a few other boys out injured. And I just throughout the week I was really nervous because I wanted to leave the arena a winner. I didn't want to leave losing because that would haunt me even more. So I just remember going to him throughout the week, said, "Bro, you got to get this for me. Like, I need you to get this." And mate, he just turned and goes, "Yeah, it's all good." Like, just so calm and relaxed. I said, "No, I'm serious." He's going, "Bro, it's all good." So I still remember that conversation where, he lit it up. He's just one of those guys, you give him the ball and he'll just do something with it. Defensively, we always had a tactic. I was on the right, he was on the left, where every time we kick chase, we wanted to be down there first and just bash them as hard as we can to set the tone. So I'd say I'd say Greggy, just because the pure fact that he didn't need anyone to set him up. He didn't need anyone to put him through a hole or give him a 2-on-1 or situation. You just give him the ball and he'll create something. And to be the leading try scorer, and then obviously Darius Boyd's second, so that sort of tells you about the type of player that he was.
Just finally, young boy playing with the Cairns Kangaroos, comes to Brisbane as a kid to go to school. How do you sit now and reflect on the fact that that kid from Cairns has played over 250 NRL games, 24 Origins, 13 Tests, won 2 premierships, played for the Indigenous All Stars on 3 occasions, and captained the Brisbane Broncos to a grand final? How does that sit with you now that you're retired and you look back as a kid from Cairns?
Yeah, look, for me, it's a proud moment. We tell kids every day. I tell my own son who wants to be a footy player, I dreamt of it. I had hope, but sometimes dreams don't come true. Sometimes hope doesn't come true. But I just backed myself. I had good people like my family pushing me, and had good people around me who wanted me to succeed. But all those highlights and all those accolades that you spoke about, I was fortunate enough to play with some great players, be coached by some of the best coaches of all time as well. So, you can never discount what they did for my career. But I was just fortunate enough to give it a crack, and some of those moments now that I look back on and think about, it's all for my family. I'd like to give me that opportunity to come down and really have a good hot crack, where a lot of the kids from anywhere else don't sort of come down and have a crack, where I was fortunate enough to have that. And mate, I got to play with some of the best players. I got to play all over the world as well. So as a young kid growing up in Cairns, mate, you can pinch yourself for those moments.
Congratulations on a wonderful career. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching this episode of the FOGS Queenslander podcast. If there's a FOG you want to hear from, leave a comment to let us know. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our videos.